37% of American adults cannot cover a $400 car repair. Using cash, that number has barely moved in 7 years. Maya knows it because 11 years ago she was inside that 37%. She was 31 years old, earning $58,000 when her check engine light came on. The repair cost $412. She put it on a credit card, charging 24% interest. Today, her net worth sits just over $1 million. Here is what nobody tells you about the distance between those two moments. It did not feel like a smooth climb upward at all. It felt like 5 separate doors, and behind every door was a different life. Not 5 gradual improvements, 5 hard steps. $10,000, $100,000, $250,000, $1 million, $2.5 million. At each of those numbers, something specific changes. And it is almost never the thing people expect it to be. Most people assume the change is emotional. It is not. The change is mechanical. Something inside the math quietly flips over. If you do not know what flips at each level, you will spend years standing beside a door you cannot see. The reason this matters is that the ladder is not evenly spaced. Most people picture wealth as a ramp, rising a little every year. The data says otherwise. Wealth moves in steps, and the steps are wildly uneven. Renee saved $1,000 a month at 7% returns. Her first $100,000 took her 6 years and 8 months. Her second $100,000 took 3 years and 4 months. Her third took 2 years and 5 months. Same person, same salary, same discipline, and the clock kept accelerating. Nobody warns you about that acceleration, so almost everyone quits during the slowest part. There is a second problem, and it is worse than the first. The number on your spreadsheet is not the number you can actually spend. Most American wealth is locked inside a house and a retirement account. 2/3 of households own a primary residence, and that residence dominates their entire balance sheet. You cannot buy groceries with drywall, so a family sitting at $500,000 on paper often lives at a completely different level in practice. That gap is where most of the confusion in personal finance lives. It is also why people who look wealthy on paper still lie awake over a dental bill. We are going to close that gap today, level by level, with real numbers. 5 levels, 5 specific things that flip, and 1 calculation at the end that belongs only to you. Here is what the data shows. Start with where the country actually sits, because the anchor matters. Median household net worth in the United States is $192,900. The average is $1,063,700. Read those 2 numbers again, because the gap between them is the whole story. The average is 5.5 times the median. That happens when a small number of enormous fortunes drag the arithmetic upward. The median is the honest number. The average is a distortion. So when someone tells you the typical American household is worth $1 million, they are wrong by a factor of 5, a few more anchors because you will need them to place yourself. To sit in the top 10% of American households, you need roughly $1,940,000. To sit in the top 1%, you need about $11,600,000. And to sit exactly in the middle, you need $192,900. Most people badly misjudge where they fall on that scale, in both directions. Now hold those anchors and meet 2 people standing on opposite sides of one. Renee is 34 years old and earns $72,000 a year. Her net worth is $210,000. $190,000 of it sits in a brokerage account. And a Roth IRA, $20,000 sits in cash at a bank. Tanya is also 34 and earns the same $72,000. Her net worth is $440,000. On paper, Tanya is more than twice as wealthy as Renee. $310,000 of Tanya's net worth is equity in her house. $120,000 sits inside a 401k she cannot touch. Until $59.5, $10,000 sits in checking. Let's keep this fair. Both women did everything the standard advice told them to do. Renee invested. Tanya bought a house and maxed her employer match. Neither one made an obvious mistake. And neither one is behind. But watch what happens when the transmission breaks. Tanya's transmission fails on a Tuesday. The quote is $4,100. She has $10,000 in checking, so she pays it, and now she has $5,900 left. Her $440,000 net worth did nothing for her that Tuesday. Renee's transmission fails the same week, and she also pays $4,100. She has $20,000 in cash and $190,000 she could reach in 3 business days. Renee does not feel the repair at all. It does not change her month, her mood, or a single decision she makes that week. 2 women, same age, same income, and a $230,000 gap in net worth. The poorer one on paper is the calmer one in real life. Most people hear that and assume Tanya made a mistake somewhere. She did not. She followed the most widely repeated advice in American personal finance: buy a house instead of renting. Contribute to the 401k. Both of those are defensible. The problem is that both of them convert spendable money into unspendable money. Do that exclusively for a decade and you build a fortress with no door. That is the discount nobody applies, and we will come back to it. Because the levels we are about to walk through are not measured in total net worth. They are measured in the part of your net worth that can actually move. Call it your liquid ladder. It is the only ladder your nervous system actually responds to. Your bank does not care how much equity is in your walls when a bill is due on Friday. Neither does your landlord, your mechanic, or the hospital billing department. Liquid dollars are the only dollars that show up when something goes wrong. 5 levels. Each one flips a different piece of the math, and each one has its own trap. Run the numbers. The first level is smaller than you think, and it changes more than any other. $10,000 in accessible cash. That is it, not $1 million. $10,000. Below $10,000, every unexpected expense becomes a decision with consequences. A $400 repair becomes a credit card balance at 24%. That $400, carried 2 years without being paid down, grows to $615. Above $10,000, the same repair becomes an annoyance and nothing more. Priya crossed $10,000 at age 29 and described the feeling in one sentence. She said she stopped doing math in the grocery store. That is the actual change, not luxury, the end of constant background arithmetic. Here is what nobody tells you about this level. $10,000 produces about $700 a year. At 7%, $58 a month, it will not change your lifestyle by 1 cent. Yet it is the single highest return level on the entire ladder, because it removes the compounding machine that runs in the opposite direction. Credit card interest, overdraft fees, payday loans, and forced sales at the wrong time. Below $10,000, your money leaks. Above it, the leak closes. Most people skip this level trying to reach a bigger one, and that is the expensive mistake. Investing while carrying 24% credit card debt is a guaranteed negative trade. You cannot outrun 24% with a 7% portfolio. The market gives you 7 and the card takes 24. That is a 17% loss you volunteered for. Tanya carried a $6,000 balance for 3 years while contributing to her 401k. The 401k earned her about $1,300 over that stretch. The card charged her roughly $4,300. She was investing and going backwards at the same time, and her net worth statement never showed it as a loss. Most people believe emergency cash is the boring, low-return part of a portfolio. It is the opposite. It is the highest return dollar you will ever hold, not because it earns much, but because of everything it prevents. It prevents the loan. It prevents the balance. It prevents selling investments during a downturn. That last one matters more than people realize. A forced sale in a bad year locks. In a loss you would otherwise have simply waited out. $10,000 in cash is not an investment. It is a permission slip to leave your investments alone. The trap at level 1 is impatience, and it costs more than any market crash. The second level is where the math starts doing something you can feel. $100,000 invested at 7% generates $7,000 a year. Break that down. $583 a month, measured against a 40-hour week. That is $3.37 an hour. Your money just took a part-time job. It is not a good job yet, but it works every hour. You are asleep and it never asks for a raise. Renee hit $100,000 after 6 years and 8 months of saving $1,000 monthly. She had personally deposited $80,000 of that balance. The market contributed the other $20,000. 80% of her first $100,000 came from her own paycheck. That ratio is why Charlie Munger called the first $100,000 the hardest part of getting rich. He was not being poetic. He was describing a ratio. At the start, you are the engine. The market is barely a passenger. Now watch that ratio invert on the way to $1 million. By the time Renee reaches $1 million, she will have deposited $331,000. the market will have supplied 669,000. 67% of her wealth arrives without her lifting a finger. Same person, same monthly deposit, completely inverted engine. Most people quit somewhere between those two. Ratios during the years when the work is all theirs. The trap at level 2 is comparison, and it hits precisely when your effort is highest. You are grinding, the balance is crawling, and someone online is showing you a Lamborghini. The math does not care. Keep depositing. There is a second thing that happens at $100,000, and it is structural. Below six figures, a 10% market drop costs you $10,000. That is uncomfortable, but survivable, and it never tests your discipline hard. Above six figures, the same 10% drop costs you more than a year of savings. Renee watched $41,000 disappear from her accounts in 11 weeks. She did not sell. That decision, and only that decision, is why she has a portfolio today. Level 2 is the first time the market can hurt you enough to make you quit. Most portfolios do not die from bad returns. They die from a person pressing sell. Here is what actually happens. The drop is temporary and the sale is permanent. So level 2 has two jobs: reach 100,000 and survive your first real drawdown while holding it. The people who fail level 2 almost never fail on arithmetic. The third level is the one almost nobody names, and it is the most important. $250,000 at 7% produces $17,500 a year. That is $1,458 a month. Now compare that to what you are putting in. If you save $1,000 a month, you contribute $12,000 a year. Your portfolio just contributed $17,500. The market has passed you. You are no longer the main engine. This is called the crossover point, and it is the true turning point of any financial life. Everything before the crossover is manual labor. Everything after it is maintenance. Priya described crossing it as the moment her paycheck stopped being the biggest thing in her financial life. Here is the part that surprises people. At the crossover, you could theoretically stop contributing entirely and still get rich, just slower. $250,000, untouched at 7%, becomes $1 million in 20.5 years. No further deposits, no side hustle, no promotion, just time. That is the level where the game changes from earning to not interfering. And interfering is exactly what most people do here. This is the level where people buy the bigger house. Tanya upgraded her house at $260,000 net worth. Her monthly payment went up $1,100, which killed her savings rate. 6 years later, her net worth was higher, but almost none of it could move. The trap at level 3 is converting liquid wealth into lifestyle. At the exact moment liquid wealth starts compounding hard. You do not lose money doing this. You lose the crossover, and losing the crossover is not a small setback. It resets the calendar. Run the numbers on Tanya's upgrade. $1,100 a month, redirected for 15 years at 7%. That is roughly $348,000 of portfolio she will never have. Her house did appreciate, so she did not lose everything. She lost the liquid version of it. Here is what nobody tells you about level 3. This is also the level where other people start noticing. Banks offer you better rates. Advisors start returning your calls within an hour. An advisor at $250,000 becomes a 1% annual fee on a real number. 1% of $250,000 is $2,500 a year. Over 20 years, that fee compounds into well over $100,000 of foregone growth. Most people accept that fee at exactly the moment it starts mattering. A 1% fee sounds like nothing. Over 20 years, it eats 23% of your growth. Level 3 is the first level with predators, and they are polite, credentialed, and pleasant to talk to. The fourth level carries more cultural weight than any other number in finance: $1 million. It sounds like the finish line. Run the numbers on it. At a 4% withdrawal rate, $1 million produces $40,000 a year, $40,000 before taxes. That is roughly the median individual income in America. $1 million does not buy a mansion. It buys an average salary permanently. That is genuinely valuable, and it is nothing like what the word millionaire implies. Here's where it gets worse, and this is the part almost no video covers. For most American households, that million is not spendable. Picture a household with $500,000 of home equity and $500,000 in a 401k. Net worth, $1 million. Liquid net worth, close to zero. They cannot touch the 401k before 59.5 without a 10% penalty plus income tax. They cannot spend the house without selling it or borrowing against it. They are millionaires who still panic at a $4,000 transmission. This is the middle-class trap, and it is manufactured entirely by good advice followed too literally. Buy a house, max the 401k. Both are reasonable, both are illiquid. Do it exclusively for 25 years and you build a fortune you cannot reach. Apply the discount. Take your net worth and subtract home equity and every retirement dollar locked until 59 and a half. What remains is the level you actually live at, for a very large number of American millionaires. That remainder is under $50,000. They are living at level 2 while reading level 4 on a spreadsheet. The fix is not complicated and it is not dramatic. A taxable brokerage account holds the same index funds with none of the locks. Same investments, same returns, no age gate, no penalty. A Roth account you have held 5 years lets you withdraw your own contributions at any age, penalty-free. Most people who own one have no idea that DOR exists. None of this means stop funding your 401k. The employer match is still free money. It means stop funding only your 401k and stop counting locked dollars as available ones. Tanya's fix took one afternoon and no additional income. She kept her 401k contribution at the match and routed the next $400 a month into a taxable account. Her net worth grew at almost the same speed. Her liquid net worth grew from nothing to real money. 3 years later, a job she hated became a job she could leave. That is what changing the shape of wealth actually buys you. The trap at level 4 is confusing the size of your wealth with the shape of it. Shape beats size on every ordinary Tuesday of your life. The 5th level is where the arithmetic stops being about survival. $2.5 million at 4% produces $100,000 a year. That is a genuine household income, generated by assets indefinitely. At 7% growth, that portfolio produces $175,000 in an average year, which is more than most of the people who reach it were ever paid to work. Here is what actually changes at this level, and it is not the spending. Maya described it as the moment work became a choice. She remade every year. Her expenses did not rise. Her calendar changed. Most people expect the change at this level to be consumption. It is almost never consumption. It is time. It is the ability to say no to a client, a boss, or a city. That is why this is the permission level, not the luxury level. And the trap here is subtle and very common. Tanya's neighbor reached 2.4 million and kept working 11-hour days out of habit. He had bought the permission and never used it. Reaching a level and living at a level are two different achievements. Most people who climb this ladder are excellent at the first and terrible at the second. There is one more thing that changes at 2.5 million, and it is unglamorous. Your biggest financial risk stops being the market and starts being taxes and healthcare. At this level, a poorly structured withdrawal can cost you more in 1 year than a bad market ever did. Which is why this is the first level where paying for genuine expertise is defensible. Not a percentage of assets, a flat fee for a specific question answered once. A 1% fee on 2.5 million is $25,000 a year. The same advice from a flat fee planner typically runs $3,000 to $5,000. That yearly difference, invested instead, is $1,300,000 over 25 years. The higher you climb, the more expensive the word percent becomes. Before the twist, run one calculation on yourself. Write down your total net worth exactly as it appears. Now subtract every dollar of home equity. Now subtract every dollar in a 401k, 403b, or traditional IRA. If you are under 59 and a half, keep cash, keep taxable brokerage accounts, keep Roth contributions you are allowed to withdraw. That final number is your real level on this ladder. For most households, it is between 30 and 60% lower than the headline figure. Nobody is doing this math for you, and no app on your phone displays it by default, which is precisely why so many people feel poorer than their net worth says they are. They are not imagining it. They are reading the wrong number, and the wrong number does not just feel bad. It makes you plan badly. It tells you that you are ready for a risk you cannot actually absorb. Most people overtrust the headline figure and underfund the only account that rescues them. Now here is the part that reframes the entire ladder. Those 5 numbers, 10,000, 100,000, 250, 1 million, 2.5 million, are useful. But not one of them is your actual turning point. Your real turning point is not a round number, and it is not the same as anyone else's. It is a formula, and it takes 10 seconds. Take what you save in a year and divide it by your expected return. That is the net worth where the market starts contributing more than you do. If you save $1,000 a month at 7%, your crossover is $171,000. Not 100,000, not a million, 171,000. And now the counterintuitive part. If you save $500 a month instead, your crossover is $85,000, half the savings. Half the crossover number. The person who saves less crosses the psychological finish line at a much lower net worth. Meanwhile, the person saving $2,000 a month does not cross until $342,000. The higher earner works harder, saves more, and waits longer to feel the shift. Most people believe the finish line is fixed and everyone is racing toward the same number. The finish line moves. It moves with your own savings rate, which means someone with a modest income can reach their crossover years before a high earner reaches theirs. Here is the line worth keeping. The wealthy do not have bigger numbers. They have earlier crossovers. That single idea rearranges how you should think about a raise. A raise you spend pushes your crossover further away. A raise you invest pulls it closer. But by less than you would guess, because raising your savings raises the bar you have to clear. This is not an argument for saving less. It is an argument against comparing. The person ahead of you on the spreadsheet may be further from their own crossover than you are from yours. Run it on yourself right now because it takes one division. Priya saves $700 a month, which is $8,400 a year. Divided by 7%, her crossover is $120,000. She reached it at 33, on a salary that never crossed $65,000. Renee saves $1,000 a month, so her crossover is $171,000. She reached hers 2 years after Priya, on a larger income. Neither of them is winning. They are running different races with different finish lines. Most people spend a decade sprinting towards someone else's number. Here is what actually happens once you cross. The anxiety drops long before the balance looks impressive. That is why some people at $200,000 feel free, and some people at $900,000 feel trapped. It was never the total, it was always the ratio. So here is the whole ladder in one pass. $10,000 ends the panic and closes the leak. $100,000 puts your money to work at $3 an hour. $250,000 hands the engine over to the market. $1 million buys an average salary and only if you can actually reach it. $2.5 million buys permission you have to remember to use. And underneath all five sits a private number that belongs only to you. Your annual savings divided by your expected return. That is the door. Everything else is decoration. Before you close this, go find your real level. Total net worth minus the house, minus everything locked until 59.5. It will probably be lower than you hoped. And that is useful information, not bad news. Knowing which door you are standing at is the entire point. Maya spent 4 years thinking she was at one level while living at another. The day she ran the subtraction was the day her plan finally matched her life. If this was useful, subscribe to Maya Wealth and hit the notification bell. We break down the hidden math behind the financial decisions you face every day. Make the decision that matches your reality, not someone else's sales pitch. Your net worth is a number. Your level is a choice about where you put it.